In my last video, we got up to only good in the kitchen and baked up our own pleated fabric. Today, we'll be transforming said pleats into a jacket and skirt combination dedicated to and in memory of the late, fabulous Tina Chow. Let's begin. I'm using this nude mesh to act as a malleable base layer for the whole jacket. Mark out all pattern pieces, then cut them out. For this jacket, I'm using my own pattern, but there's a free one on Mood Fabrics that's quite similar, so I'll link it down below. Now, let's begin to build in some structure. I'm using this beige cotton as host for our good friend, the horsehair canvas, who we've already met in my MORTICIA video. I became enamored with Tina's articulate aura and fabulous couture collection after watching the AKA Mr. Chow documentary, which I highly recommend. The few images of Tina that I was privy to throughout it were enough to convert me into a Tina stan. Cut out canvas on the bias for the front bodice, making sure to make it smaller by about 1/4 of an inch all around the seams. Then pat stitch it onto the cotton base. I'm not going to be following the full tailoring process for this jacket, but I still want some structure. Once unified, pin onto our sheer mesh layer. Baste them together. Then press seams of the beige cotton down all around the sides. This time, I'm slack-a-lacking a little and using my machine to stitch it on instead of hand stitching. In 1972, Tina's in London, married to Michael Chow, raising 2 children and running an empire that would eventually expand to 3 continents. A lot of her designer friends would frequent Mr. Chow's, and it became impossible to dress in clothes of one without offending all the others. So she began to collect vintage couture, a Dior satin opera coat, bugle beaded gown and jacket from Schiaparelli's Autumn-Winter 1938 collection, and her Fortunys. Tina's first ever Fortuny was an orchid pink mushroom pleated Delphos that Michael got her at a Christie's auction. Pockets. Before, when it came to welt pockets, I used to feel like I was about to operate on someone armed with only knowledge from Grey's Anatomy, absolutely quaking. Now it feels a bit more like muscle memory, less clueless, still quaking. Tina's enduring image is this androgynous uniform of simplicity, a garçon in couture, a gamine in the Gap, minimalist and androgynous by day, eclectic and otherworldly by night. Her hair was cut short at Astor Barbershop for $6. I actually managed to get my hands on the 1989 book that went with her FIT Kyoto Costume Institute exhibition, both titled FLAIR. There's this unencumberedness, this effortlessness, really sophisticated, curated look. Her style really wasn't about consuming or about fashion itself. Tina once said that it's about keeping your individuality alive. Any pocket bags that we attach now might just get accidentally sewn shut in the process. I should know it's happened to me quite a few times, so we'll just come back to these open-mouthed fishes later. In my last video, I did a full tutorial on how I baked my own pleated fabric, so have a look if you're interested in trying it out for yourself. I'm someone who sucks at chemistry, sucks at baking, and somehow did not fail. So if I can do it, you can. Begin sculpting the pleats onto the jacket shell. I didn't have a motif planned and just kind of freestyled, placing pleats to eyeball taste, so to say. You can definitely do all sorts of wavy or asymmetrical or spherical curations at this stage, so just let it flow and go wherever it might take you. When you get to the pockets, maneuver the pleats carefully around, covering them up but not shut. Once pinned to satisfaction, I use this champagne-colored thread to fix them in place. For areas that overlap, do teensy-weensy felling stitches down the edges. For areas that can be seen clearly through the mesh, we can do some incognito herringbone stitches from behind the mesh. To continue our poor man's attempt to imitate Fortuny, encase the length of this pleather string within each of the seams. If we look at the seams of the Delphos, they're most definitely done by hand, not machine, and there's volume, lightness, 3-dimensionality, which is silly to say because I guess all clothes are 3D. Time to feed the fishes. Cut out 2 sets of pocket bags. Pin in place and assemble. For the front facing, I cut out some of this velveteen situation. It's plush, soft, and not even close to the same champagne color as our jacket, but I'm not mad about that. To combine our shell pieces together, clip them in place first, baste down all adjoining seams, then hand stitch them in place. Once done, remove all the temp basting thread. For 2-factor authentication, I flipped the panels over and felled down the insides of the seams as well. Now it's time for embellishments. This time I'm not doing it out of my usual hedonistic magpie tendencies, but more out of respect for Fortuny's artisanship. His Delphos gowns all featured Murano glass beads around the seams. They were simultaneously adornment, as well as practical weights to help the garments fall and drape better. I'm not in Venice, so instead of Murano beads, I opted for some delicious coffee-colored ceramic beads from a city nearby called Jingdezhen, which has been producing fine Chinese porcelain since the 6th century. Taking a new length of pleather string, mark out equal distances first, then attach to our seams, adding on beads at each of the marks. You can also attach all the beads to the string first, then attach the whole combo to the jacket. Both methods take time, so just pick your own benevolent poison. I opted for these coffee-colored beads to ground our pleated champagne. Also a hint at Tina Chow's 2 main beverages of choice when she lived in New York during the 57th Street Mr. Chow heydays. Artists, designers, photographers, models, they would all frequent Mr. Chow's. And in all the photos of her that I found, even when she's in this evening dress and in full glam, you know, hair slicked back, face made up, dark lips, rimmed eyes, the visual balance of her look is impeccable. Karl Lagerfeld called her the inventor of minimal chic. So if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I love traces of the human hand when it comes to things made and fabricated. Fortuny's Delphos dresses all had these hand-stenciled labels on the inside, almost like a signature. I created my own tag with my initials, location, and date of creation. Attach the lining by first pinning it along the front facing, then sew it down. By 1987, Tina and Michael's marriage had ended, and she had began her battle with AIDS. Her sister Adele said that the act of creating was what transformed and enlivened her. She combined her father's passion for bamboo with her new one for crystals. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, to a Japanese mother and an American father, her friend Nadia said that she sought to reconcile her Eastern and Western sides and finally came to realize that you don't have to be this or that. You can be you, without apologies. For sleeves, so I'm flipping it inside out, basting the shell down, then felling the lining down by hand, just short of the hem opening. For really narrow and squished areas like these, hand sewing is always the preferred option for me. And if you think my hair looks like an angry bird's nest, then I wholeheartedly agree. I actually made an appointment for a haircut tomorrow morning, so hopefully in my next video, you'll see what I've become. For the bottom hem, I'm adding these polished stones, this time attaching them to our string first before attaching it all along the hem. And with that, our Fortuny Delphos-inspired jacket for Tina Chow is now complete. This is one of my most meaningful videos that I've worked on so far, and I'll link to all the articles I read, not to mention the FLAIR book that I hunted down. I love doing all this, so thank you for watching, and if you like this, please subscribe, give it a like, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!